anyone in late modernity that has had the reach to teach that Tupac Shakur has had. Now, when I think about Pac, okay, and all the things, okay, that he wrote, all the performances that he had, what I really wanted to try to understand is what is it about Pac's message that has been so transcendent? Because it's not hip-hop. If it was hip-hop, then Pac would be joining a whole bunch of other cats that are still on these young people's MP3 players and phones, but they're not. Right? A lot of these cats have faded out, but Pac hasn't. Pac is still in young people's ears. Truth be told, many of y'all came in this joint today bumping Pac. Okay? Many of y'all have Pac on your... Okay? 10 years ago, I started doing some work with the Maori community in New Zealand. Those of you not familiar with the indigenous politic of the globe, the Maori are the indigenous people of New Zealand. And I flew out there, and look, if you put a pin on my block, I stay 3416 Davis Street. Okay, you put a pin on my block, and then you take a pin and you put it in Otara, which is the community just outside of Auckland, where I was working with the Maoris. Okay? It is literally the other side of the world. Right? So I'm not being hyperbolic here when I say I was on the other side of the world. And my first meeting is with a group of 30 high school Maori youth. Okay, so I walk in the room, they're all sitting in this circle, and this one young brother hops up and he runs up to me and he says, "You're from Oakland?" I was like, "Yeah." He says, "Did you know Tupac?" I'm like, "Nah, bro, not everybody in town knows each other like that." But it was so deep to me, right, that here I am literally across the globe. And the first question out of a young person's mouth is about Tupac. I told you I'm an English teacher, okay, 2 decades in the game. And I can tell you with full confidence that I can take a crisp, brand new $100 bill, stick that bill inside of any Shakespearean text, leave that text anywhere in my classroom, and it is completely safe. But if I leave Pac's book of poetry out, and a lot of cats don't know that Pac wrote a book of poetry, okay? And this is actually the title of the book of poetry. It's also the title of probably his best-known poem in that book. If I leave this book of poetry out anywhere in my classroom, it is immediately snatched up by the very same kids that OUSD is convinced are not interested in literacy, okay? And what I have told principals, superintendents, and literally Arnie Duncan to their face, okay, is that it's not that young people aren't interested in literacy. It's that they're not interested in the literacy that we are giving them. Okay? Those are two very different problems, and how you frame the problem in your head drives the way in which you craft your response and solution to it. Okay? And so Pac, for me, right, is so telling, okay, about how I think about what are the problems that I have to grapple with, okay, to really support and develop the young people in my community. Okay? Now, as a way to kind of frame up the talk that I'm going to do today, I'm actually going to play Pac reading this poem. Now, Pac actually read this poem on multiple tracks. Okay, the one that is probably the best known is a song called "Mama's Just a Little Girl." Right? And at the end of that song, he actually reads the content of this poem over the beat of the song. So I'm going to play that for us right now as a way to frame up the rest of this talk.
We turn from bad to worse. It's to ignore from which we came. Mama's just a little. You see, you wouldn't ask why the rose that grew from the concrete had damaged petals. On the contrary, we would all celebrate its tenacity. We would all love its will to reach the sun. Well, we are the roses. We are the roses. This is the concrete. This is the concrete. And these are my damaged petals. These are my damaged. Don't ask me why. Don't ask why. Thank God. Thank God. Ask me how.
Now, when I think about Pac's message here, what Pac is pointing out is how absurd it would be for you and the homie to be walking down the street and you see a rose growing in the concrete. You say, "Look, a rose in the concrete." And the homie turns back to you and says, "Yeah, but what a shame, it has damaged petals." Of course it has damaged petals. Fool, it's growing in concrete. But we do this all the time with young people. I have damaged petals. I wear them in ink on my arms. So that every day when I wake up in the morning and I see myself in the mirror, I'm reminded of who I am and where I come from. But school taught me that that ink was my problem. School taught me that if I could just leave that ink at the door, I would be so much more successful. I'd be so much easier to teach. I'd be so much more valuable to them and their system and their process. But you see, the problem is that you can't take the ink off your arms. Once the ink is on your arms, it's on your arms. And what Pac says to me, what Pac says to young people in my community that have ink on their arms, is that I see you. And it is that ink that gives you your tenacity and your will to reach the sun. You must keep that ink on your arms because that is what will get you through this fucked up system that we've created for you. Don't peel the ink off. Don't leave the ink at the door. Be presente. Bring it with you. Put it on the table so that we can all learn from that ink. I don't ignore your damaged petals. I acknowledge that it is your damaged petals that make you such a beautiful, tenacious rose.
And that's kind of what I like about Dr. Angela. Because I know I'm not perfect and whatever, but it's something that she can look at me and she can kind of put the picture together. She knows I'm just a dude trying to figure it out.
Each of us has a chance to be somebody. And it's my delight that you would ask for me so that I could have the pleasure, the joy, the thrill of talking to you so that I can be somebody.
For me, that's master pedagogy. Now, I just want to do a quick recap about that story she told. Okay, so, Maya Angelou is a Nobel Peace Prize nominee in literature, national treasure, a grandmother. And she is where when this happens? L.A. Somebody said L.A. Right? She's on a movie set, right? She ain't in my old neighborhood. She's in a movie set. And she walks out of her trailer on a movie set, a Nobel Peace Prize nominee, a grandmother, and she sees who about to fight? Okay, so I got Tupac from a couple people, I got two young men. No. It can't be Tupac because she says she doesn't even know who Tupac was. She didn't know Six Pack. Okay? But you see, that's what happens when we hear stories like this, is we do, oh yeah, I mean, she intervened in the life of Tupac. I mean, thank God, Maya, thanks a lot, because, you know, we needed Pac. The blood needed to be saved. No. Not in the lives of two young men. No way. No one comes out of a movie trailer and intervenes in the lives of two young men about to fight. No way in hell anybody does that. You come out of your trailer and you see two young men about to fight, you call security. Or go back in, she said. So whose life is she intervening in? Her own. She walks out, she sees these two young brothers about to fight. Those are her sons. Why does it matter? Maya intervenes in Pac's life circa 1991. It's on the set of Poetic Justice. Okay? And because Maya does, Pac's own mother writes her a letter and says, thank you because you saved his life on that day. And because Maya musters the courage, character, and commitment to save Pac's life that day, Pac goes on to live 5 more years. Pac is murdered in the streets of Las Vegas in 1996. And if you study Tupac as an artist, as I do, what you will find is the period between 1991 and 1996, the 5 years that Maya bought him by coming off that trailer and intervening in his life, was the most productive artistic period of Pac's life. He wrote so much in those 5 years, they couldn't publish it all. This is why Pac has album after album after album coming out after he's dead. One of those albums that was written in those 5 years came out in 2003. and it is called Resurrection. And in 2009, my homie snapped this photo across the world in Kathmandu. And it is a picture of 3 brothers. The oldest one is standing in the middle, turned to the right, okay, consoling the middle brother, whose hand is on his head because he is weeping. And the baby brother on the left is watching, learning empathy. Now, what you might not catch is the shirt that the oldest brother is wearing. That is the album shirt from Resurrection. And this is the truth about our work. Okay? You don't know who your Tupac will be. You just don't know. Okay? But I promise you this. Okay? It is your Tupac. It is that kid that is the most likely to be able to speak to the other kids that are stuck in the concrete. To have a message that truly resonates in their heart, that makes them willing to open their head again. But the Tupacs are the ones we're the least likely to invest in because we think we're the messengers. We think we're the vessel. The hood will save the hood when we start investing in the hood. The governor, policy, the feds, they've never given a shit about my block. But you go on my block right now, and the D-boys, my cousin on the corner right now, okay, I see them, okay, as the change agents. If we can reconnect them in a real and viable way to see themselves in that way. Okay. Ultimately, okay, those are the classroom spaces, those are the school spaces that not only transform individual kids' lives, but change neighborhoods. And that's the gig that I think that we all signed up for. If I can be supportive in any way on your mission to do that kind of work, please do not hesitate to reach out. I will share any of this stuff that I share with you today or any other resources that we have access to, because this is not an East Oakland project. This is a global project for freedom and justice and autonomy for all young people. Thank you.